My name is Lisa, and I'm an internal support coordinator with WEX FSM, and I want to welcome you to, one more person's coming in, to Solution Studio. Today we're going to be going over QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, and just wanted to remind you all that this is not a replacement for customer support. If you need assistance right away, don't wait for the webinar. Reach out to customer support, and they're there to help you. So today we're going to go over syncing, merging. Hi, Kevin. We're going to go over syncing, merging customers, and just kind of drilling down a little bit between QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop, some of the differences. So let's go start by reviewing the differences between syncing with QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Desktop requires a sync tool to be manually added on the computer that hosts the QuickBooks company file. An office person is required to manage or monitor that sync tool daily, or set it to an auto sync if they decide as a business that's how they would like to do this process. QuickBooks Desktop has a sync log that the customer support can check to see what might be causing the error. And that's one of the differences between QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Online has sync logs that can only be seen by a developer, and any review or updates of the customer IDs must be done by a support request. QuickBooks Online does not require a sync tool. It's a direct connection that requires the QuickBooks admin to connect to Intuit by adding their user and password in the settings of WEX FSM. There's no monitoring of a sync tool, and the sync actually happens every 10 minutes. And there's no way to manage the sync schedule like you can in QuickBooks Desktop. QuickBooks Desktop, we have a lot of people that want to kind of review things before they sync. So they may sync at the end of their day and manually push that. And you can manually push it in QuickBooks Desktop anytime. Or they may set it up to auto sync whenever, every 15 minutes, just so that they don't have to deal with it. Okay. So let me go over and share my screen. So we have, this is my QuickBooks test account, and then I have QuickBooks open, QuickBooks Desktop. I don't have a copy of QuickBooks Online, but I just wanted to go over some of the things that actually sync. So think of QuickBooks as being below WEX FSM. WEX FSM is like a box sitting on top of QuickBooks. So everything except for some items only sync down from WEX FSM to QuickBooks. So those items would be customers, invoices, and payments. Some of the things that sync two ways are the back office settings and your QuickBooks item list. So if you update your QuickBooks item list and you go to add an item to a job form, it will be there for you to use. We also have on the invoice list and the customer list, we have sync support here. People don't really realize this is here. You can reach out and click on here and see any sync errors and solutions and see if you can resolve these on your own. If you're interested in where something from an invoice maps to in QuickBooks, you can come and see the field mapping. You can see a sync guide, and you can see an overview of the whole process here. So this is listed on several pages. I believe it's on the invoice list as well. So you can refer to those. Okay. And when you first started, you had an initial data load. And so a lot of times it came from another system, or it might have come from QuickBooks. And so the data team works really hard to get everything mapped from your previous account to WEX FSM so that it syncs correctly and everything makes the connection. Okay. They look for duplicate customers during the data load, and they try to match up as many as possible, but the names have to be exact. And if there is not a clear match, they can't merge them. So there may be some duplication. And when you first start, you may see more than one customer in there. Or if you have a customer in your system and a tech is in the field and they can't find it, or the customer gives them their name differently, like maybe you have it in your system as Jonathan and they go out in the field and I goes, hey, my name is Buddy. He calls himself Buddy, right? Instead of Jonathan. He may go ahead and enter him in twice as a duplicate customer because he's not sure that it's the same customer. So once you have these, sometimes you have to merge. And think about it this way. If the customer is created in WEX FM and it syncs to QuickBooks, it has a path. It has a path that it follows, and invoices and payments follow that path on that customer to sync down to that customer in QuickBooks. If you merge something in WEX FSM and don't merge it into QuickBooks, you're still going to have the duplicate in QuickBooks. So when you merge, you should be merging a primary or a parent customer in WEX FSM with the child customer. So let's take a look at this. So right now I know that I have two Jack Dawsons. So to kind of narrow this down so there's not a lot of other traffic on the page, I have Jack Dawson and I have Jack D. Dawson. And both default locations are the same. The emails are the same. The phone numbers are the same. They've both synced. So if I go to QuickBooks, I will see, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. I have Jack Dawson and Jack D. Dawson here as well. And it looks like I have a whole lot of traffic on Jack Dawson, but not much on Jack D. Dawson. So one of the things that you want to do before you do any merging, I would make a backup file of your QuickBooks, because once you merge something, you can't go back. There's very few things that if you merge in our system or in QuickBooks that you can reverse them. So if you have that backup file, if for some reason you find out that it was not supposed to be merged, it was two separate ones, you can always go back to your backup file. Okay. The other thing is, before you start doing a lot of cleanup in your system, if you have an accountant, let them know, because we are not accountants here at WEX FSM. We can show you the best way to use the software and how to do some cleanup, but we are not accountants. So if your accountant wants you to do something a certain way in QuickBooks, please reach out to them and make sure that your process is confirmed with them. When you go to merge customers, I narrowed these down to only two. You would click the merge button after you choose the two, and you can only merge two at a time. You can't merge multiple. So once you click the boxes, the merge button becomes engaged. And it's okay to click on it. It's not going to merge it immediately. It's going to ask you some questions first. So if I click merge, I can see that Jack Dawson at this one has two active locations, 6 invoices, payments, maintenance plans, equipment, and appointments, where this one has nothing. So I know that this is the one with the most information. I'm going to make this my parent, or my master as it's called in the system, and merge this with the master. So once you click which one is the master, you're going to see all kinds of these little yellow pop-ups. And the yellow pop says all data from other customers will be merged with the master customer. And it's also going to ask you to confirm that you did this in QuickBooks as well. Because as I mentioned before, if you do it one place and not the other, you're still going to have duplicates in QuickBooks. So it will also give you the numbers to make sure that you're merging the correct one. Well, let's say the customer names are exactly the same. Okay, so you have two customers in WEX FSM that are both Jack Dawson. Let's pretend that he's not there. So you have two in QuickBooks that are Jack Dawson. It can get really, really confusing on which one you're choosing in WEX FSM and which one you're choosing to merge into QuickBooks. So there's a little trick that we can do, and I'm going to duplicate this. I usually have about 7 or 8 tabs open by the time I get done, but I can go in and go choose Jack Dawson, and I know that I want Jack Dawson, not Jack D. Dawson, to be my master. I can come in here and put a 1 after the last name and save it. Okay, it would ask if you want to update this. Yes, I do, because I want to know which is going to be the master here and the master in QuickBooks. So I could save this and say, yes, I want this to be the master, so that when this syncs to QuickBooks, you will now have Jack Dawson 1 and Jack Dawson. And you will know that when you go to merge, you know which one to choose as the primary or what we call the master. And then that way you won't get confused. Because if you don't do this and you get them, it's a technical term, I guess, cross-merged, so that you merge them one way in WEX FSM and one way the other way in QuickBooks, and you have activity on this customer, it's going to create another duplicate when it syncs over. So you want to make sure that you get the right one merged to the right one. Just going to go ahead and take this out so that I can go back, because we do have a difference in here. So you would choose these, you would choose merge, you would choose which is the primary, mark that you have confirmed the QuickBooks merge, and then hit merge, and it will put everything into one customer. Now it's a little bit different in QuickBooks. QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop kind of work the same way. So what I would do to merge a customer in QuickBooks, and once again, you should check with your accountant before you do any merging and make sure that you're doing what they would like you to do. You can open this up and copy this name exactly as it is. Hit OK. Now open Jack D. Dawson and paste that other name in here. Okay. One of the things that you will need to look at before you merge these in QuickBooks, check the emails, check the numbers, checks everything in here that is on the one that is going to be gone, the one that you are the child that you're merging into the master. Because if the information here is different than the master and you don't capture it before you merge, this will be gone. So if I hit OK, it's going to say this name is already being used. Would you like to merge them? And you can say yes. And then when you're done, you'll only have one Jack Dawson. Jack D. Dawson will be gone. Okay. But I'm going to hit nope and cancel so that I can go back in here. Jack D. Dawson would be gone. But as you can see, Jack D. Dawson doesn't have any information. Jack Dawson does. But always check here to see the emails, the addresses, because if the tech knew that there's a new email when they created it, this email may no longer be good, but this email may be the correct one. So make sure that you're pulling this information, putting all the correct information from the actual customer on the master before you merge. And remember, it can't be undone. Does anybody have any questions about merging so far? Okay. Then I'm going to keep going on just a little bit. And we are going to look at, remember I said that customers will have a sync status here as well. They'll have some more information under here. If you do sub-customers, your sub-customers will be listed under here. This account does not have sub-customers in my test account, and each one will have a sync status here as well. So if you add a new location and you're merging and you're using sub-customers, then you can check in here. That may be one of the errors that you might see, that one of the sub-customers have not synced. A lot of times when items are brought in and new locations are brought in, they will put exactly the way that you had it in your QuickBooks. And QuickBooks doesn't have any rules, but WEX FSM does. So on that first address line, if it was in QuickBooks as maybe a name and the address, and it gets to be longer than 32 characters, it will fail. It will not sync because there is a 32 character limit. So in that field, so you would have to come in and say, okay, let me take a look at that. Let me go to the customer. Let me look at the location or the billing location and make sure that it is Google verified. And what I mean by that is if you come in here and you click on this, it will bring up the Google verified address. The location name may be really, really long. Hey, where did I go to? There we go. The location name may be really, really long and get past that 32 characters. Then this is the Google verified. And so a lot of times when we see the load come in, all this information, the address, the city, the state, would have been loaded here in the location, making it too long, and the address isn't Google verified. So you may have to manually break that up if that was the only way that they were able to bring your information into the system. Okay. The other thing that we have is the invoice list. So remember, the customer has to be synced first because everything that follows has to have a home. So if your customer hasn't synced and you create an invoice, the invoice is going to fail. The payment is going to fail. Okay. If the customer syncs and you have an invoice error and take a payment, you may see a payment error that says that it synced successfully to the customer because the payment could find the path to the customer, but the invoice didn't sync. So it will give you an error to tell you to go back and take a look at the invoice. Once you correct the error on the invoice, you can set the payment back to ready and it will follow the invoice, but it will already be on the customer in QuickBooks. So if once that invoice syncs over, if you have to manually apply it, or you can just go back and set the payment back to ready and let it sync as well. One of the other things that is a really good idea to keep this as clean as possible is once you fix something in here, if it is something that requires double entry, so let's say you had an invoice that was created before you came with us and before you started with us, and we loaded it in here. And after you started going, that customer paid. So you took a payment. The payment has a pathway to the customer because when we loaded the customers, we had created that pathway, but the invoice wasn't created in our system. So it was kind of a placeholder that makes sure that your customer's AR is correct. So when you take the payment, you'll get an error because it couldn't find the invoice. It'll say that it's synced to the customer, but it couldn't find the invoice. So it will be sitting on the customer waiting to be applied to the invoice. And then you can come in here and turn this to off so that that way you know that you've already done the manual assignment in QuickBooks and you don't have to review this again. So as you fix these, if it's something that is not ever going to sync, like those type of payments that go to a previously created invoice in another system, you can set them to off. Other than that, you should be fixing the sync errors. Once you save it, it'll go to ready and it'll sync back over. So the invoice list, we've got some different invoices in here that I have errored out. And one of the fun things about having a test account from QuickBooks is occasionally they close it on you and you have to reopen a new one. Well, my WEX FSM account is still the same, but the new QuickBooks file that I open and a new company file will have items in it that is a mismatch. They're mismatched. There was a QuickBooks item that I used previously, and it's in WEX FSM, but it's not in the new QuickBooks file. So we get a lot of mismatch, and it gets a little ugly in here sometimes. So this is a 207 error, and a 207 error, you could come over into the Sync Errors and Solutions and go down. They're listed by customer errors. Okay. They're invoice errors. And here's 207. The item listed in the error has been assigned a QuickBooks ID for a different item in the item list. The sync logs, remember I told you QuickBooks Desktop, you can see the sync logs, for support can see the sync logs, will help determine what is causing the problem. The item causing the error likely can no longer be found in the item list or there's a mismatch. So what we can do is we can create a support request for that item to sync net new. And when it syncs net new, it will create a new item in the QuickBooks item list. And for any time you use that item again, you will not get the error code 207. So you will be able to look in here. There's payment lists, payment errors. So you can see a lot of different items so that some of these things you may not have to reach out to support. You may be able to clear them on your own just by looking in here, and or once you reach out to customer support, you can say, oh, this is a 207 error. I know exactly what this is. I know exactly what to ask for and what screenshots to provide them. Okay. So it helps a lot to be familiar with these errors. And as you work further and further into the system, they should be less and less. I will tell you that if a tech in the field creates an invoice and they choose a custom line item, they don't find anything in the price book or Profit Rhino or your QuickBooks item list that they need to bill the customer. They will create a custom line item, and our system does not allow field users to add an income account in the field because they feel that your field worker should not be telling you where your money should be put in QuickBooks. So it will come up and it'll say not ready. And so you come in and you can click on details. You don't have to click on every invoice and open up and look at every line item. You can come to the little bit of a shortcut here, click on details. And this was an old income account that was from when I had QuickBooks before. I can go in and now change this to the new one that I created, which is 2026 job income, and hit save. And this will go back to the ready status. I have to refresh. So you can do that with any of the errors that say not ready, get them all ready to go in the next sync. And you can also sort. So if you have a lot of items in here, you can come in and choose not ready and maybe error. And that way you don't have to kind of weave your way through all of the other ones. You can just address all of the ones that need to be worked right now and get those synced to QuickBooks. Okay. Let's see. The other thing that you can take a look at on the payment list, and a lot of people are unaware of this. So if you have an invoice, there'll be a check mark here. So this means that this payment is married to this invoice. This payment is not. It's synced to the customer and it's $500. And it may just not be married with an invoice in our system. You may have taken a down payment and the invoice may be sitting there. One of the things you can take a look at is this little caret will tell you what it's assigned to. This is not assigned to anything. No invoice is applied. You can click the three dots here and hit Edit Payment, Reassign Payment, and go look for the invoice that this might have been paid on for and assign it. And or if it's a down payment, you may want to leave it there. It just depends. Whenever you have a payment without a check mark, anything red in the system you can click on, red box opens in a new tab. The payment will have a gold bar here and show that it is either partially unapplied or fully unapplied. And this one is fully unapplied. So you would have to do some research and see, okay, are we working on a job that this is the down payment for, or does this really need to be assigned to some of these invoices and payments down here that still have a balance? Okay, once this is assigned, it will sync over to the newly assigned invoice, and or it will have already synced over and just be sitting on that customer's account in QuickBooks as unassigned as well. Okay. The other thing that to see the errors is a hover. I showed you on the one with the 207, but that's how you find the errors. Okay. And the other thing that syncs are the back office settings, and you find those under Settings, Accounting and Taxes. So if you update a QuickBooks item, an income account, or anything in that's in your chart of account or your item list, it will sync back up to QuickBooks. And if you create a new class or a new income account, it kind of flies under the radar. It's a little small plus at the top of each of these. It will sync from WEX FSM down to QuickBooks. Occasionally, something will have the same name, and you'll see on one of the items that there is a item error, an income account error, and you will come in here and see that there's an error in here as well. And you'll have to see if it's a duplicate of what you have in QuickBooks already with the same name, or the hover over it to find out the reason why it did not sync. So this is basically the items to sync, how to manage your sync errors, and how to merge. Now, does anybody have any questions about this or have something in their system that's an error that they don't know how to resolve? One of the other things while I'm waiting, I just wanted to show you is, let me go back to Jack Dawson. If you have QuickBooks Online and you have one customer in WEX FSM and one customer in QuickBooks Online, and you're getting a sync error on the customer and it won't sync over. In WEX FSM, when you have the customer open, there is a string up here in the URL that has the customer identity that we assign to this customer. So sometimes there's a mismatch. Maybe you either merged the wrong way or it was created after, and you didn't have, after your first initial data load and you didn't have a supplemental. There can be different reasons why there is a mismatch. But what you would provide care is a copy of this customer with showing the URL in WEX FSM and the same screenshot of the customer open in QuickBooks Online with the URL, because that will give them the number, the identity in QuickBooks Online and the identity in WEX FSM, and they can map that correctly so that it will sync in the future. That's done by a support request as well, but if you have QuickBooks Online and this happens once or twice, you already know I need to get a copy of this and I need to get a copy of the URL in QuickBooks Online so that they can fix this for me so it'll sync moving forward. Any questions or anything else I can help anybody with? Anybody need to go in a breakout room to do some cleanup? If not, we're at 30 minutes and I'm going to let you all get back to work. Remember that you can always go down to the Help Center and search Solution Studio. This is the one that has the sign up, advanced working sessions and learning, and that will have the calendar to sign up and also the replays of any previous webinars that we've had, so that if you want to go back and review them, you can. We also have a survey at the end that should pop up for you. If you can fill that out, we'd really appreciate it. And make sure that you put in there if there's any other topics you'd like to see us do that we're not doing right now, and we'll get those added to the rotation. Thank you all and have a great rest of your day.